Hello everyone, my name is Kirby G with Kirby G's Points and Miles, and I've booked my next trip. And that trip is going to be an all-inclusive in Cancun, Mexico, booked here at the Hyatt Breathless Riviera Cancun Resort and Spa. It is an all-inclusive, adults-only Category C hotel. And if you didn't know, Hyatt normally categorizes their hotels 1 through 8, but for their all-inclusives, it's A through G, I believe, maybe H. The specific room we booked here was on an Allure Junior Suite Ocean View double beds. We booked this with points, so if I turn the points button on right here, you will see it be 21,000 points per night. It does I don't have the points in my account right now, but it does average out to be actually 25,000 points a night for a total of 100,000 points for 4 nights. So let's take a look at what this hotel has to offer here. So what we're going to bring down here, obviously, dining and drinks, everything is unlimited dining, unlimited drinks, 24-hour room service, pool and beach wait service, free Wi-Fi. It has a 24/7 room service as well, daily restocked mini fridge in the hotel room. What more could you want, really? So let's look at some of the photos here. And a lot of these photos do look like stock photos for the most part here, but there's also a spa that does have an extra charge that me and my friend, we won't be interested in. But let's look at the resort itself here. I mean, just look at that, right on the water. As you can see, it's kind of cut off from a lot of other hotels and resorts. It's not directly next to the hotel, or not directly next to the airport. It's about 20 minutes away. So we did arrange for a shuttle service to pick us up from the airport and take us to the resort and back as well. I think it's a great location. Like I said, literally get up out of the suite, walk down to the beach, and spend some time in the ocean. Absolutely beautiful. And here, just another aerial view of the pool here. I think there's a little bar somewhere around here that you can also get drinks of. And it'll be a great time to spend 3.5 days just laying on the beach doing absolutely nothing. And again, here is a photo of the bar. So this is kind of what our hotel room looked like. Again, nothing too crazy. Junior suite, double beds, totally chill. Not going to complain at all for something like that. Again, nice little bathroom, nothing crazy. And let's look at some of the restaurants here. Again, free food. I'm not someone who needs fine dining, so being able to eat and drink 24/7, absolutely amazing. Now, I also wanted to calculate, what kind of value am I getting for my Chase Ultimate Rewards points that I transferred over to Hyatt. So as you can see here, we got 100,000 UR points with a total cash cost of $1,332. Specifically, the last night was the most expensive night, and so if you average it all out, like I said, 25,000 points a night. If you calculate that, that's only 1.33 cents per point. Now, Hyatt all-inclusives don't really give you the best value when it comes to Hyatt redemptions. Some of the more maybe higher-end all-inclusives do. But what's really nice is that Hyatt has a feature that allows you to send points to someone. So my friend and I were going in halvesies on this trip. So let's just look at what this true value for me is, at least. It's about 2.66 cents per point, which isn't the greatest Hyatt redemption ever. There's some Hyatt redemptions that I've seen people get in the 4 to 5 cent range. But getting over 2 cents per point for my Chase Ultimate Rewards points is always a win. Now, that does mean that I've already spent 100,000 Hyatt points. Again, transferred 100,000 from Chase, put it to Hyatt, and I booked this hotel. Have about 867 Hyatt points left, I think. But once my friend sends me those points, I can't then send them back to Chase. So I will have 50,000 Hyatt points stuck in my account, which is, some could see as a negative. But I do know that I will be using those points over the next year, so I'm not too concerned that they are stranded there. I do have some, my trip to Japan next year, as well as some possible one-night stays on like a Category 1 Hyatt. Maybe use it for like 8,000 points here and there. Those instances might come up over the next year, so I don't mind having 50,000 points there. I probably should have those within a week or so. So how am I going to get to Cancun? I do have a lot of Delta miles that I decided to just blow on this trip. Now, I didn't put in the exact dates. Again, it's roughly around this time in November, and you can see I do have it set for Delta Comfort here, and this rewards chart used to be a lot better in my opinion, because you can see some of these 51, 48,000 point redemptions, but a lot of the time the Comfort Plus leg is only partial to it. So let's use this one. This specifically happened to me when booking this trip because I decided to book it in Comfort Plus. And as you can see here, it says Delta Main Classic, Delta Comfort Classic. So my leg from John Wayne to Atlanta is in Main Cabin, and my leg from Atlanta to Cancun is in Comfort Plus. I don't really have an example here, but I did see, let's just click on this random one. Oh, there's a problem processing. We'll just search this again. But there was an issue where I would have one leg that was fully in, or one segment that was fully in Comfort Plus, and the other option was partially Comfort Plus, partially Main Cabin, and they were the same price. So unfortunately, because of the dates we decided to go on, we couldn't be extremely flexible. I did not, I guess maybe that option might be gone here, but I did not get the best quote-unquote value for these points. Again, you'll see maybe 60,000 points in Comfort Plus for this trip. Most of these are not going to be all in Comfort Plus. Some of them might be, but take it with a grain of salt. Now, I was having some trouble with Delta's website, so I couldn't show you the exact configuration of what I booked, but I do have Main Cabin from John Wayne to Atlanta, Comfort Plus on Atlanta to Cancun, and the same thing on the way back, Cancun to Atlanta in Comfort Plus, and Atlanta to John Wayne in Main Cabin. Now, like I said, I could have gotten slightly better value if I selected a different date, but we wanted to make sure that the hotel had availability more than the airline had availability. There's actually 3 all-inclusives in Cancun and Punta Cana that we were looking at first that had availability on Monday that was completely gone when we booked it today on Saturday. So we wanted to make sure that we could lock in a hotel, and the airfare was kind of secondary. We did look at both of them before booking anything, but that was just kind of the best combination. So like I said, what that awards chart on Delta said doesn't really show the full picture, but like I said here, it ended up being 87,900 miles for 2 of 4 legs in Comfort Plus. It was really hard to determine what that true cash value would be because there was no real way for me to say this leg, I want to book this leg in Main Cabin, this leg in Comfort Plus, and the exact option that I picked was no longer there. So I couldn't give a true cent per point, so I did my best to kind of give a rough average, about $1,200 to book this flight in cash, and about $136 in taxes and fees. Again, giving me a value of 1.21 cents per point for Delta. Again, it's not amazing. I could have saved probably about, 18,000 miles booking it all in Main Cabin. But for me, $180 to Comfort Plus on that leg, the last leg of the trip, and that leg back to Atlanta, that's worth it to me. Maybe it's not worth it to you, but I travel Delta for work. I'll have some more Delta trips coming up probably in October as well for a long weekend. I'll be acquiring Delta miles over the course of the year, so I always have them coming in, and if I'm going to have them come in, I may as well spend them. So now that I've talked a little bit about this trip that I'm booking, I kind of want to touch on the concept of value within the Points and Miles community. When I think of booking this trip, like I said, I did have to pay some taxes and fees here and there, and I had to pay for the shuttle service from the airport to the hotel and back, which is about $68. When I can say that I'm going to travel to Cancun for 4 nights and spend $225, there'll probably be some more other incidental charges here and there, but I consider that amazing value. Now, like I said, 100,000 Hyatt points is a lot and not great value on its own, in my opinion, but when the fact that my buddy will be sending me 50,000 Hyatt points, so like I said, 2.66 cent per point redemption for both of us on our Chase Ultimate Reward points, that's amazing. The Delta flight, I know I'm not getting the best value that I could possibly get with my Delta miles, but when I think of upcoming trips with Delta, I will fly them for work occasionally. That's going from maybe like 5 times a year down to 1 time a year in 2026. I'm okay kind of stepping my foot off the gas when it comes to Delta. when I think of my flight home for Christmas, right now I'm planning on that being American Airlines miles as I visit home in Wisconsin. Having a direct flight from John Wayne to Chicago, well, that isn't always the best ideal value for my family. And that may require like a hotel the night before, depending on what time the flight is. It's just so much more convenient and overall cheaper, even if we have to get maybe a hotel for one night versus flying Delta, which just is very inconvenient to fly from Southern California to Milwaukee. So as I'm spending my Delta miles, I'm not sure how much of a use for them I might have in the future. And the more I think about it, as I am moving towards American Airlines, as you saw me get my Barclays Red Aviator card and possibly a City AA card in the future, I'm just going to spend my Delta miles, and when I run out of them, I run out of them. And when I fly them for work, I might slowly get some more. And if I continue to use my credits on my Delta Reserve card, maybe get a few miles that way, I might be able to book something one way every once in a while. But depending on how long I live in Southern California, Delta maybe can't be followed up to my second most desired airline, which might seem blasphemous to say as I'd love me some Delta propaganda, but while I have a boatload of miles, I'm just going to spend them. And as you might not be able to tell since I'm sitting down, I am on the taller side, 6'1.5". I'd like to tell myself. Having that extra legroom in Comfort Plus, again, while it won't be the longest legs of my flight, because I think Atlanta to Cancun is about 2.5 hours versus 3 hours, 45 minutes to fly from California to Atlanta, that extra 18,000 miles that I spent to upgrade those two legs to Comfort Plus will feel well worth it. There are also certain points currencies that I am more reluctant to use than others. Before I depleted my Capital One balance, I was never ever going to spend my Capital One miles except for business class flights booked through Aeroplan. I used 150,000 miles to book one-way flights from LAX to Tokyo Narita and then back from Taiwan on EVA Air to LAX. And each of those flights were 75,000 miles. And while I am bankrupt with Capital One miles, when I think of Capital One or Amex membership rewards points, I think of those points as being for business class flights. So I don't really want to spend any of those currencies unless it's in that context. When it comes to Delta Sky miles, unless it's unless it's a work trip or it is a trip where I have maybe an e-credit or something, which I've actually acquired a few of them from getting voluntarily bumped from flights, I'll always just use my miles. Unless it's a very poor value, like maybe around Christmas time, some flights can get jacked up and miles don't really make sense, so I'll kind of finagle some things that way. If I'm flying Delta, I'm flying on points. I do have a $600 e-credit that I will be using to visit some friends in Minnesota for a long weekend in October. That flight, again, a direct flight there and back, is $679, which is kind of insane. But that $600 e-credit will pay for most of it. And once I have that flight and this trip to Cancun, I'll probably have about 26,000, 27, 20, maybe 30,000 Sky miles left over. And I'll just have to find a way to use those again as well. So like I said, Delta, I don't really care what kind of cent per point value I'm getting, mainly due to the fact that the card is not an earning card, it's a benefits card for me. And as I'm acquiring Sky Miles, it's not necessarily through my direct spend, it is through the business travel, it is through upgrading, downgrading my Amex cards to get upgrade offers. They're not a points currency that I think I need to get high value at. My Chase points, if I'm getting 2.5 cents per point, I'm locking that in every single time. Capital One miles, when I had them, that was for business class. Amex and membership rewards points, I don't have a ton of them because I only have the Blue Business Plus, but I just hit that welcome offer. And in 2026, I will be starting the Amex ladder. Again, those points will be my business class flight point buckets. And having kind of a bucket for each points of what these points are used for has really allowed me to become more complex in my credit card setup and acquire many cards from many different issuers, but still having a use case for them. I'm not someone who's going to acquire 7 million points a year and spend 6 million of those points every year. I have some very low spend outside my rent, and while I am always working on a sign-up bonus, it normally does take me the full amount of time to complete that sign-up bonus. I'm never worried about not completing it, but I do want to make sure I'm not overspending as well. So it's a really careful balance that I'm playing within the credit card game. but making sure that I have buckets of points that I assign. I want to get this much value out of these points, and once I see an opportunity to get that value, I pull the trigger. I know this isn't how everyone thinks, and some people need to get a specific value within their points before they book. Some people don't look at their sent point value at all. They just see I have enough points, time to book. Any way that you think about it is valid, as long as you're getting the value that you want out of the trip, all the power to you. For me, spending 50,000 Hyatt points and having 50,000 Hyatt points stuck in Hyatt instead of Chase, that's worth it to me. Again, it's 4 nights. The first night I do come in kind of late, so I don't really consider it 3 nights, but you know, 1 extra night in a nice hotel is fine. And then again, spending 88,000 Delta Sky miles, I don't care at all. I saw that I had enough points to do it. I pulled the trigger. There we go. I'd love to kind of hear about what you guys think about this trip. Do you think if you were in my shoes that that's enough value for you? Or would you have maybe booked a main cabin ticket? Or maybe you would have only booked a first class ticket? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts, recommendations of what they would have done in this specific case. Again, I shared some rough estimates of dates, so there were some dates that might have seemed like they were a lot cheaper, but in reality, I was never going to go on the trip on those dates, so those numbers don't matter to me really. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. On screen here, you might see some recommended videos from YouTube. Again, I would just like to give a huge shout out to Anthony Venture, who gave me a nice shout out in his last live stream. Got me, I think, about around an extra 10 subscribers, and we are on the march to 100 subscribers. So again, if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. I'll make normally around 2 to 3 videos a week, just giving updates on my personal credit card journey and all of the things that I am currently working on. So thank you, and have a great rest of your day.